So this here is Bowser, formerly of Shanana, and yous are listening to the Claws Corner. Grease for peace.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Claws Corner. Today's guest is a guitarist, mixing engineer, mastering engineer, and songwriter. His current band, Bad Marriage, has toured nationally with Tesla and Buck Cherry. They have also opened up for Extreme, Stephen Pearcy, LA Guns, Jeff Tate, Last in Line, Scott Weiland, Steel Panther, and many, many more. In 2022, they shared the stage with legends such as Alice Cooper, Quiet Riot, Kix, Night Ranger, and Tom Kiefer. Their latest release, it's an EP entitled Artificial Mind, is now available with songs such as Tear It Down, Artificial Mind, Together, Broken, and 300 Miles are destined to make this an instant classic. You can currently find him on the Glam Slam Metal Tour Part 2, along with Nuff's Enough and the Choir Boys. So with that being said, let's welcome the extremely talented Mike Fitz to the Claws Corner. Mike, how are you?
Hey, thanks, man. I'm very good and happy to be here.
All right, I'm so glad to have you here. As I told you off the air, I've been listening to your EP probably about at least 6 or 7 times, no exaggeration. I love to run, so I've been listening to that. It's a great running EP. It really gets me going, pumped up. And then I went back and listened to Bad Marriage 1 and 2. Just as good. You guys are a solid rock band, and I'm so happy that for your success lately. So I want
Awesome, man. Well, go ahead.
All right, no, to say what I wanted to talk about, we had so much to talk about, as I mentioned in the intro. I wanted to start with the Glam Slam Metal Tour Part 2, featuring Bad Marriage, Enough's Enough, and the Choir Boys. I know it started touring on June 30th. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, all the dates are kind of running into each other now. Yeah. We're in Montreal. We got here today. We have a show tomorrow night. In Montreal, so we're here a day early, just making sure we got into the country good and everyone's here and safe. And but yeah, it's been going great. I think we're 6 or 7 shows in, and it's been kicking ass.
And how'd you get that tour?
Me and Chip from Enough's Enough just started chatting a few months ago when we had played with Bad Marriage. Had played with Enough's Enough in Boston at a place called Sammy's Patio a few months ago. And I just think, I've known Chip for a little bit. We played with him in the past with Enough's Enough. And I just hit him up and I said, Bad Marriage is looking to hit the road. We want to stay busy. We have a new EP out, the Artificial Mind. So he said right back, we might have something going on in the summer. So it just, that's how it unfolded. So it all came together pretty well.
And are you playing larger venues, stadiums, smaller venues, all of the above?
For the most part, I mean, no, they're on the smaller side, but they're still awesome places. I would say they're clubs, anywhere from 200 to 500 person clubs. And, but they've all been pretty awesome and they've been pretty well crowded. So we're definitely having fun.
All right, I'm glad to hear that. So do you have any? I'm in Connecticut. Do you have any dates in this area, or have you already played here? Because maybe I missed it.
We did when we started. We didn't play Connecticut. The closest we came was New Bedford, Massachusetts. We played New York City. We played a really coll place in New Jersey called Dingbats. The New York City place was cool, the Bowery Electric. So now we have 3 dates in Canada. And then we're Detroit, and then we get a bunch of other ones after that. So we're kind of just starting. We're almost hit the middle point in the tour.
Well, it's funny. When I was doing my research on you, I found an old flyer with you playing the Webster Theater, which is in Hartford, near where I live, opening up for Steel Panther. That must have been a fun show. I love Steel Panther. They seem like a bunch of great guys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're, not only are they great guys, they're super talented. We got to open for them twice. I think that was the second time. The first time was the House of Blues in Boston. And yeah, they're killer shows. They bring a great crowd that really likes rock and roll and has a lot of fun. So yeah, we definitely enjoyed that. And the Webster was really cool too.
Yeah. It was a former movie theater that turned into a club. I love it. I go there all the time to see shows.
Yeah, we love the old theaters and stuff, and it's just cool too that then, they're still keeping theaters intact and having shows.
Yeah. All right. So tell me what is the Looney Bin?
The Looney Bin is
Yeah.
one of our favorite places to play. It's a bar in Laconia, New Hampshire. And it's one of our stomping grounds. Every year they have what's called Laconia Bike Week. It's very similar to Daytona and Sturgis, all the big bike weeks. And we do a couple of dates there every year that they have that bike week. So it's a great time to look forward to. We've made a lot of fans there, and the bar is really cool. So it's just all around a good time to look forward to every year.
What other bands play that?
I'm not sure. It's like they have that festival every year, the bike week, and Michelle, the owner there, has a bunch of revolving bands. But we've become a state. We've been very lucky to become a staple there, and again, it's just a place that we look forward to. It's kind of like a backyard party.
I love it.
Yeah, we just have a blast.
Right. Well, as I mentioned in the intro, Bad Marriage has played with many, many great acts. I mean, I went down the list, so many legends. And what I wanted to ask you was, playing with all these great musicians, these legends, what is the best piece of advice that they gave you?
Wow, yeah, trying to think. It's not that they openly just say, "Hey guys, come here, I want to give you advice." It's
Yeah.
what you make. It's what you make and learn from watching them. And it's not just on stage; it's off stage. So we've got to tour with Tesla. We probably did 3 or 4 different large tours with them. So we got to not only see the country with them, but you get to watch and learn how they act, how they operate, how they carry themselves on, off stage, the etiquette that goes along with, talking to venues, talking to their own sound engineers, to everybody involved in how a concert is put on. So you learn a lot if you will definitely learn a lot if you pay attention and you're willing to learn. So I think that's the key to up and coming musicians that learn from successful bands is just how they operate, and just paying close attention to how they carry themselves.
Mm-hmm. That's the best school that you can go to, is just touring with these bands that have been around forever. I mean, they learn from all their experiences back in the 80s, and now they're more mature. They know exactly what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, you have the best schoolings with all these great bands you've played with.
Right.
So before we get to the EP, I want to talk about that. I want to go back to Mike Fitz, the early years. So growing up, who were your biggest influences?
Well, I remember my dad had a jukebox in our basement when I was really young, and I always tell people this when they ask me that. I just remember the sounds of like Elvis coming out of there, and I specifically remember Led Zeppelin 2, the sounds of Jimmy Page's guitar that really drew me to the sound of the big sounding electric rock and roll guitar. So I think that's always resonated with me. The big Les Paul Marshall sound. And then obviously being from Boston, you grew up with bands like Aerosmith, and those were probably the founding bands that I really clicked in my head. And then of course you get to high school and middle school, and your friends are listening to different stuff, and it just kind of spreads from there, but I think the early days was Elvis and Zeppelin that I remember hearing from my dad's jukebox.
Yeah, it was funny for me because my father liked pretty much everything you just mentioned, all the classic rock. My mother was more on the pop side. So growing up, I got the best of both worlds. I got a chance to, hear Zeppelin, The Doors, all of those bands. But then my mother loved the Carpenters, ABBA, stuff like that. So I had a great appreciation. I still have a great appreciation for all types of music. And I'm glad that my parents taught me to be that open-minded, because I know so many people. I used to be in metal bands when I was in the late 80s. All my friends were like, Metallica, Megadeth. I'm like, 2 great bands, but there's so much more out there, and you're missing out on all these great bands just because you think that like it's only this and only that. So I'm glad that I had that influence from both people. But I love all the bands that you mentioned, and the fact that now that you get a chance to probably meet them, play with them, must be like a dream come true. Yeah.
Definitely, and you said, yeah, like, and I remember my mom was always blasting Fleetwood Mac. She was a big Stevie Nicks fan, so yeah, and the Beatles, and so yeah, I'm pretty well versed with everything. Yeah, and then when I got a little older, I loved Metallica, Megadeth. I loved all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think, especially when you're more open-minded like you are, it makes you a better musician because you're not just stuck in one genre. You can be influenced by so many different areas. And then when you're writing your own music, you can take the best of everything and it makes your songs better and makes, I appreciate people like you that are open-minded to different things.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it all helps. The more you expand your, horizon or catalog of music, I mean, the more you absorb, and when you come to writing songs, and it can only help.
Now, all right. So what about current favorites?
Bands.
Yeah.
I think that I have my set of classic bands that I always like to listen to, like everyone does. Whether it's AC/DC, like Led Zeppelin. Like you said, I like the Doors. I like Pink Floyd. I like all the good stuff. But I like my share of metal too. I love Judas Priest. I love the classic metal bands like that. The list goes on. As far as new, let me see. What have I been listening to lately? I've been listening to a band called Crowbot lately. I really like Crowbot.
Really good band.
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to Rose Tattoo. I know they're not new, but they're an Australian band. I really love Airborne. They're another Australian band. I listen to so much different stuff though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, I have a question. You mentioned AC/DC. Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
Oh, I mean, I have to go with Bon Scott.
Yeah.
Have to. But I still love all of their stuff, and the fact that they could even carry on without him and then do so much greatness with Brian Johnson, it just amazes me every time I listen to both of them.
Oh no, I agree with you. I remember like when Back in Black came out in 1980, and nobody ever really thought that was it. Bon Scott died, and then wow, he took me all night long. Yeah. Back in Black, Hell's Bells. And I love the fact that basically Angus Young plays the same three chords, but it never gets boring to me. I love every song, and it's just you're rocking out every time. I've seen them in concert so many times, and I never ever get bored with their music. But yeah, I agree exactly what you said, because I love Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, TNT, but then I listen to Brian Johnson. It's so, I mean, I'm sure there's other bands, but whenever I mention this, it's always like Sammy Hagar with Van Halen and Brian Johnson with AC/DC. I'm sure there's other bands, but those are two major bands that, when somebody major leaves and they still go on to even greater success, that's really impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right. So for you, how old were you when you realized that you wanted to be a musician?
It was probably eighth grade, maybe freshman year in high school. And I had a few friends that were a year or two older than me. And, so I would say probably roughly 14 or 15. And I would watch them play. We'd have a half day at school and we'd go over to our friends' houses and they would be jamming as a band. And I didn't own an instrument or whatever. And then once I saw them play, it's different when you see MTV and you see videos. It's like, you see these people and you put them on a pedestal. You're like, wow, these people are rock stars or they're superheroes. But when you see your friends doing it, the kids that you go to school with, that when it comes to, it becomes more real, and you're like, wow, they can do it. I can do it. So, it took me a couple times watching them play. And then I convinced my grandmother to get a guitar for me. So kind of, that's when it started.
So you've always wanted to be a guitarist from the very beginning?
I think so. Yeah. I never really had any desire to play anything else. Like I said, from the early days of hearing Jimmy Page's guitar and then seeing my friends jam, that's the instrument that really stuck out with me. So
are you self-taught?
For the most part, but I did have a lot of friends that played. So I would always, kind of be over their shoulder. And kind of asking them what they were doing and, how do you do this and do that? And, now if I ever need to learn anything or I'm on YouTube, but it wasn't as easy back then. You had to go by some books I had. And then again, friends that were more skilled than you and you have to learn from them. Or a lot of by ear training, putting on Zeppelin CDs or putting on whatever and kind of playing along. So, now I love it because I can just, anything I wanted to brush up on or teach myself, I can just plug it into YouTube, and it's pretty cool.
I know, I do love that.
Yeah.
No matter what you want to know, no matter what you need to do, like there's going to be some tutorial on YouTube that's going to tell you exactly
Right.
what to do. I love that. So I'm
Right.
guessing from what you said, you got your grandmother got the guitar, and then you started playing in garage bands with the neighborhood kids for a while.
Yep.
Did you
That's
play with those?
basically it. Basically it. And then I started my first band in, I think, 1997, actually with the drummer that's in Bad Marriage. I went to high school with him, Mike Delaney, and so we started playing together in 97. And you go through your different bands and stuff, but yeah, I just stuck with it, and it's just all I've ever known, and that's how I ended up here, still rocking.
Yes. You continue to rock for another 25, 30 years, probably even longer. I love it.
Right.
So let's fast forward then to 2015. How did the band Bad Marriage get their start?
Yeah, again, like I was my previous band before that, it kind of fizzled out or ended for whatever reason, and I said, I want to start, and it was a little different sounding than what Bad Marriage is, but Bad Marriage is ultimately what I always wanted to play. It's just straight up rock and roll band, as you've been listening to what we sound like. And I kind of was like to myself, I want to start one more band. I want to try it one last time. I want to take everything I've learned from all the other bands that I've been in, all the knowledge that I've learned, whether we broke up or why we broke up. So I took all what I've learned, over my career, and said, I'm gonna try one more band, taking all that I've learned. I'm gonna handpick everyone that I think would be great for the band. Not only on stage but off stage. Picking the right people is half the battle, or even more than half the battle. So that's just what I did in 2015, and we're doing pretty good now, and everyone's happy. So we're having a good time.
So did you think in your mind, not that this would be it, if this band didn't work out, that were you going to go a different route musically if Bad Marriage didn't go where you wanted to go? Because you said you're going to take everything that you learned from the past, and this was going to be the band.
No, this was more of my direction, that I wanted to go in. So it was like, if it didn't work out, it wouldn't have been the musical direction, because it was going to be somewhat of my vision of what I wanted to write. And just like, again, I kind of circled back to old rock and roll and why I actually wanted to learn guitar and play. I veered off a little bit with different bands. Sometimes I played in heavier bands, sometimes more poppier stuff. So I was going, I'm going to do one more, and it's going to be similar to the stuff that I really want to do. I grew up on, and why I started to play guitar. So.
And what'd you do? Start playing all over the Boston area? Just every club, anybody would take it? Like, all right, come on, let's play another show here.
Yeah, but I had built a pretty good relationship with a lot of places over the years, with being in different bands. So, once you start to know the places, the scenes, then, you network with a bunch of people. Then when you have a good product, when I thought Bad Marriage was ready to play, yeah, then you start putting feelers out there and saying, hey, I got this new band. And then, it was pretty easy to do, because I'd been around the scene for years. But yeah, Boston, New England, we played a lot around, Worcester area, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, New England area. So it wasn't just Boston, but
yeah. And is compared to when you first started to what it is now? Because I know, when I think I'm older than you. I'm 55 years old, so I was in bands more in the late 80s, early 90s, and there was a lot of in Connecticut. There was a lot of rock clubs that don't exist any longer. Are you finding it similar for you right now? Like when you started, 97? You said somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I mean, when I started in 97, I wasn't really playing out then. That's when I was just first kind of starting to play. But the early 2000s, yeah, it was pretty thriving. I mean, there was a lot of cool places to play all over New England. But yeah, it's been unfortunate. I've seen dozens of kick-ass places close down for whatever reason.
I know.
Most recent reason being COVID. I saw a lot of places close because of that. So it's unfortunate. But as long as there's some places still still available to play, it gives us the fighting chance.
Oh, exactly. So when you were becoming more and more popular, playing all these different clubs, were you ever courted by any major labels?
No, we've had talks with labels before in my previous bands. We've done a bunch of showcases, which, you go and play in front of a lot of different labels or different management companies and stuff. We did a lot of that stuff in New York and in my old bands and stuff. But, for the most part, all of our bands have been pretty much self-run, and, just kind of, that's all we know is we got to do it ourselves. We never depended on being discovered or anything. When you grow up, there's always that hope that someone will find you and take you to the, but you quickly learn that that's not reality. And if you really want something, you just got to go out and get it yourself. So that's always the mindset we've had.
Yeah. And see, I love that. And that's what, for my personal opinion, gets me mad about these quote unquote reality shows like The Voice and American Idol, where they think they're going to go on stage for 1 or 2 weeks, become a rock star, tour the world. It's like, I don't know, I like the bands like you, where you get in a van and just tour and meet everybody, and you grow as a band, grow as a person, and you become better and better. And then you suffer. You become like the 20-year overnight success.
I know. Well, that's the only way we've ever known how to do it. So that's what we continue to do.
Yeah. Well, keep on doing it. I love it. So you released 2 full-length albums, as I mentioned, Bad Marriage and then Bad Marriage 2. And you've always mixed, engineered, and produced for the band. So a question for you is, was this a monetary issue, or do you just like having full control of your sound?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I said, when I wanted to start the band, I had a vision, so I knew what I wanted the band to sound like. But I also always loved the art and process of recording, because I had a lot of friends that are mixing engineers, recording engineers. So I always watched them. I was always eager to learn. And so when I started Bad Marriage, I knew that I just knew we had a lot of songs to put out. I did not want to be one of those bands that put out a song or an album every other year. I just wanted to keep putting stuff out, and so I started buying recording equipment, and then asking a bunch of my friends, any little shortcuts, like, hey, should I buy this microphone or should I buy this setup? And I kind of just acquired a bunch of really good recording gear and kept teaching myself. And since it was our band, we took our time. There was no real time limit, so I just spent a lot of time on learning the craft and kind of crash coursing recording and mixing. So it just kind of fell into my lap, and now I really like it.
See, I love that. So very similar to you learning how to play music. You work with the best, and you see what they do, and you learn. So instead of you're again, what you just said, that you're self-taught in the mixing and engineering aspect as well, which is really impressive. Because I know I'd be looking at the board saying, I have zero clue what to do.
I still sometimes, go, when you leave it for a little bit, because like now we're on tour. When I go back, I'll still be, all right, wait a minute, what button does what? But it comes back to you, and like I said, I got a big network of friends that are in the recording game, so I'm always hitting them up with questions.
So do you produce other bands as well?
I do here and there. There's a few local bands that I dig, and I'm not like open about it. I don't like advertise about it, but every once in a while a band will come and say, hey, do you want to record? I'll take a listen to them, and if I think I can help them, then sure. So, and I really like mastering now too, and that's a totally different process. I don't know if you're familiar with that whole process, but recording, mixing, and then mastering. I really like that end of the recording spectrum. So I do that a lot for other bands as well.
Very cool. Now, I've spoken with a lot of bands on this show, and I think every musician told me the same thing. They said, well, these streaming platforms such as Spotify, iTunes, they prefer the bands to release one single per month. Are you finding that you have the same problem with that? Instead of releasing a whole album, they're like, no, I'd rather have just one single, because as a lot of people say, it's become more of an ADD nation, and people will say you release an album and then 6 months later, like, whatever happened to Bad Marriage? And so to keep fresh in their head, they want you to release that Do you do the same thing, even though you released the
Well,
EP, but on the streaming platforms?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole key of being in a new band is staying relevant, whether it's, I don't know if it's that strict new song every month, all that would be cool. And that would be probably ideal, but that's tough to meet that demand, one song a month. But I think as long as you're putting out something, so what we try and do is say we put out a new single in, July. In August, maybe we'll put out a new music video or even a lyric video or a new photo shoot. So as long as you're keeping in that cycle, and so like you said, people are like, who's Bad Marriage, So
Yeah.
I think if as long as you're coming up with new creative content on somewhat of a consistent basis, you have a good shot of staying on people's radars, But again, you can only it's a tough spot, because if you put out too much stuff and it's not anything, significant, you always want to be going like this, right? You always want to be climbing and doing better. So you don't want to put out too much, but you also don't want to go stale and forgotten about. So it's not easy. You just kind of learn as you go, but you definitely don't want to not have creative content. You want to constantly be trying to brainstorm hard. What else can we do? Whether it's new photos, new videos, new lyric videos, new songs. So yeah, I mean, it's not easy.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the videos, because I know you do have some videos out. I saw them. I love the videos.
Mm-hmm.
Are they self-financed?
Oh yeah, everything is self-financed.
Yeah.
Everything. All the money Bad Marriage has ever made goes right back into the band, because there's so much stuff to pay for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we just we kind of put a plan together and see what we need. Okay, we need a new music video for this new song, and we just figure it out. We book shows and try and and we always have new merch and stuff to sell, and we're just pretty good with how we allocate our funds, and I think that's very important too, in keeping the band alive.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the intro, your latest release is entitled Artificial Mind. Was it a conscious effort to make it an EP, or did you just want to come out with a couple songs now and then maybe release a full-length album later on?
Yeah, it was pretty well discussed that it was going to be an EP. There were several factors involved. I mean, one, it was produced by Brian Wheat, who plays bass in Tesla. And it was basically written and recorded over that whole COVID time frame where everyone was a little unsure what was going on. But we had flown out to Sacramento to record it. And it was expensive going over there, 5 of us, flights and back and forth a couple times. So we figured, let's test the waters with Brian and write a couple songs. It ended up being 5, ended up going really well. But we didn't want to none of us wanted to commit to, say 12 songs if it wasn't jiving. So I think the EP worked. I think everyone was happy, and we would do it again.
That was a perfect segue, because that's what I wanted to bring up next. I was going to mention this is the first one that you would not produce yourself. So now that you told my audience who produced the album, what are your differences in style? He
has a lot more experience than me. Number one, he's co-written huge songs. Obviously, Tesla's a very legendary band. Sold millions and millions of records. So he's been in the game. He knows his craft. He's actually a very good mixing and recording engineer. He's a very good songwriter. So again, he's another one, like we talked about, that I've learned a lot from too. So it's going to sound different. He's got all different equipment. He's got a different ear than me, which I totally embraced, and the band embraced, and we knew that going in. It was not going to exactly sound like our previous releases, and we were cool with that. We wanted to see what kind of direction we would go in, but we still sound like Bad Marriage, which is really cool.
Yeah. And speaking of Tesla, you also had Jeff from Tesla sang on 3 of the 5 tracks. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah. I mean, he came down while we were recording in Sacramento and laid some vocals down, which was amazing. And he's he's just such a fantastic person. And like I said, we did a lot of touring with Tesla, and that's when we hung out with him. You know, when you tour with a band extensively, you know, you either really love each other or you really hate each other.
Yeah.
And you know, they took us under their wing, and they're just their whole Tesla camp's really cool. And we became close with Jeff. And so when we asked him if he'd like to sing on a song or two or three, you know, he was super cool about it. And yeah, we're pretty happy about that.
It's so great to see bands like that that are just so down to earth, very cool, no ego at all. I love hearing stories like that. So I want to talk about how the Monsters of Rock cruise that you did and how that led to the band getting an additional guitar player.
Yep. Well, the Monsters of Rock cruise was awesome. That was a last minute thing for us. Again, it was coming off the tail end of COVID, restrictions between countries. There's a lot going on, and you know, long story short, a couple of bands that were booked on the cruise had canceled. So we got the call, kind of like like when you call up to the major leagues in baseball or whatever. And we got a call 5 days before the cruise left from port in Miami, I think, or wherever, you know. So I wrangled the boys, and I told them, look, this is going to be crazy, you know, to get everything together, but we got to do this. And we made some awesome fans on the cruise. We shared the stages with obviously a bunch of legendary bands, and it was an amazing time. And yeah, like you said, we have since added a new guitar player, which was Tommy Skeoch, who was formerly in Tesla. And his band at the time were playing on the same cruise. So obviously I knew who Tommy was, but I didn't know him. So I just introduced myself on the cruise, and we became friends. And you know, over at least the past year, we talk, you know, a couple times a week about whatever, you know, and it just kind of stemmed from there. He had played a solo on one of our new songs, which isn't out yet. And all the band really loved it, and we thought it really brought a fresh sound to Bad Marriage, something that we, you know, don't really sound like. But again, like it was kind of like working with Brian. It was a new direction, and it was really cool. It was refreshing to us. So Tommy ended up coming down and practicing with us and having fun, and we really fell in love with the sound of having him and a third guitar player and what he brought sonically. So after that, I asked him, I said, hey man, we're going on a tour in July for, you know, I think 23 shows. And he kind of said, yeah, man, I'll do that. So here we are.
All right. Now, I'm trying to remember, is that the cruise that included Autograph? Were they on that cruise?
You know what? I'm really not sure. We have played with Autograph. It was on the Monsters of the Mountain Festival.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. The reason I bring that up was because I don't know if you know the guitar player, Jimmy Bell.
Oh yeah, he's a friend of mine. Yeah,
he's a friend of mine too. He is, if you know his story, he's from Connecticut. He was a local legend. You know, it was between him and Zach Wilde. Then he played with Geezer Butler. So, I mean, so I had him on the show. Such a great down to earth guy, just like you. I mean, we talked for like 2 hours about everything. And it's just I love seeing people like you two finally get that success. I mean, he's been through so much, if you know his story, and he finally got to where and then unfortunately the only original member of Autograph died, but they're still doing so great now, and I'm so happy to see that.
No, he's a super nice guy. We've got to chat a few different times. And he's just a sweet guy, very genuine, and his talent is insane. I mean, he's a phenomenal guitar player. So
he's also in another band called Beyond Purple, which is really good. I love that band. So as you mentioned, you guys are a DIY, do it yourself, everything. I mean, no booking agent, no manager, no label. So do you and the band members each take on a responsibility to make this happen?
Pretty much. You know, like I said, I started the band, so I kind of have the most responsibility. It's kind of on me. You know, I kind of act as manager. I act as a booking agent, and I do all the recording, right? So there's a lot on my plate. But again, you know, I signed up for it. It's my thing. I enjoy doing it. But everyone pretty much has their role. Our drummer is really good with numbers and accounting, so he handles that stuff and
Mhm.
make sure we don't overspend or that kind of thing. Our bass player Todd is very good at like IT web stuff.
Yeah.
So he built the website. He can handle all that kind of stuff. Our other guitar player Ian is our shipping and receiving person. He mails out all the merch that comes in, and we actually do pretty well in the merch department. So he does all that stuff. So yeah, everyone has their own little jobs to do.
So now, are all of you full-time musicians, or do you still, some of you still have second job to pay the bills?
Oh yeah, we all have to
Yeah.
find additional sources of income to help. Obviously that's the goal. It would be nice for this to pay and not have us, but who knows? The more we tour and stuff, then that might happen. But yeah,
I see a lot of musicians who just do music full time. They're not just in one band. They're in 5, 6 different bands, or doing guest spots here and there, so just to keep the money coming in. Because, as you mentioned, it's like just with one band doesn't seem like it is enough, unless you're like, in the upper echelon where you're playing stadiums and doing all these different things. So
yeah.
So the question for you then. So when you had 5 days to get ready for the rock cruise, all you have to take a leave of absence from your job and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be gone for a while. So,
Pretty much, yeah. It was, again, we made it happen. Everyone had to kind of figure out how to leave for a week on last minute notice, but we all did it, and it was well
good.
worth it. And yeah.
I'm glad that your jobs were able to understand that, because it's a dream of yours, and how many times are you gonna get that opportunity? So I'm glad that you're able to make it happen. So I want to talk to you about your writing process. What is that? First of all, do you come up with the melody, with the music, and then write the lyrics, or do you just write the music and have the vocalist write the?
Yeah, there's no real set way, but for the most part, I come up with something initially before giving it to our singer, Jonny. So it's basically that. I mean, sometimes I'll have some lyrics in my head. Sometimes I'll have just a song title with a couple guitar parts, and he'll take the song title and write lyrics. Sometimes I'll have a full verse and a chorus, and it's just kind of all different depending. And sometimes I'll have a whole song written out acoustically, and give that to him, and then it goes back to the band to if it needs any arrangement adjustments, or it's a little different case by case, but it usually the backbone of the song starts with me, that has some sort of idea or a theme of a new idea, and we kind of go from there.
I'm not sure if you know who these are. It's a Connecticut band, Fate's Warning. Do you know who they are?
I'm not sure, no.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because I wanted to ask you they live all over the world. Like, one will be living in England, the other one will be living in the Northeast. So what they do is, one will make a tape, send it to the singer will send it to the drummer. So with your band, I'm guessing you're all in one area, so you can work together and collaborate, make it much easier. I mean, maybe not. I think it would be easier, and I think it's more. I think it would be, you get a lot more out of it when you're all in the same room, just brainstorming.
Yeah, it is more difficult though, as you get older too. We do try and rehearse once a week. Yeah. So, but when we rehearse, we have to rehearse the songs that we already know, for an upcoming show or a tour. So we do use a lot of email. Like I can do everything, like I said, I can record a lot of parts at my house, and I can email and I can send it out. So that definitely helps to be able to email parts and stuff like that.
Has your writing process changed since you had added the additional members?
Well, we haven't really got with Tommy. No, we haven't got to really, kind of everything happened fast with that too. So right now we're just trying to get tight as a band, as 3 guitar players for this tour. But after that, I'm sure it will change a little bit with another dynamic added to it. But we're happy. We're psyched to go down that path.
I can't wait. That must be fun when you're playing some of the smaller clubs with all the musicians on stage, with 5 different people, 3 guitarists, the bass player, singer, drummer, all on one stage. That must be fun to try and not to trip over each other.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a case by case situation with the stages. Some are just super small where it's tough, it's really tough. But yeah, it's always fun playing, really tight next to each other, because you feel like a complete unit. You know what I mean? Some of the stages are huge that it's like, where are you? But,
oh yeah, definitely. I love asking musicians this next question because to me, there's a huge difference between being a great musician and then being a great performer. Some are great at both. Do you have a favorite in each one? Like an example, one musician that I asked this to, he said his best performer slash musician was Prince. Another one said Michael Jackson. And then I brought up an example with like Paul McCartney might not be the best bass player, but he's a great performer. And then you have, people that are great musicians like Yngwie Malmsteen, who's not that much of a performer, but I mean, he could play the hell out of a guitar.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I love any great frontman like Bon Scott, as someone who just has it and
Yeah.
he's effortless. It's effortless, and you can't really teach that kind of stuff, But then there's a million singers that can just hit all these different octaves and it's just absolutely amazing. So I do appreciate both, and I don't know about any favorites, but like even like Jimmy Page, like he wasn't known for being perfect on stage. But his songwriting was so good, and the way he thought of songwriting structure and layering guitars underneath each other on his albums. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it with that kind of stuff, but I don't know, I just like it all.
I know, me too. It's funny. I'm glad you said that because I've been to shows where some of the bands I've seen are trying so hard to be technically correct, and they're not having fun. I'd rather see somebody mess up and they're having fun on stage. To me, it gets me more into it, and you can tell the band's having a great time. The audience is having more fun, instead of like, if I really want to hear exactly how it sounds on the CD or the streaming, I can go home and listen to it for free.
Right.
So I'd rather have somebody just mess up, having fun, just playing it a little bit differently than they did. So I like.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's definitely, when you think of going out to see someone live in concert, right? It's not just with your ears, it's a visual thing too. So you definitely like to see some sort of visual, whether it's the band rocking out and really, some high energy on stage. And so, yeah, we definitely try and we put everything forward when we're on stage and show that we want to be there,
I love it. So do you have a dream collaboration that hasn't happened yet?
I mean, I think, like I said, it would be cool to have someone from our home area, like if we got to play with Aerosmith or have him on a track, Joe Perry on a track, or Steven Tyler. I think that would be pretty cool. But
yeah,
I never really. I guess that would be really, really cool.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're just trying to write awesome songs. I mean, if you asked me if I ever thought the singer from Tesla would be on our songs, I would have laughed and said no. And now we have one of the guitar players in our band. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty surreal when you stop and think about it. But we're trying not to stop and think about it. We're just trying to put out some really good stuff.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with you. So when I was doing my research, I found out that when you're playing live, you do a lot of cover songs, such as Aerosmith, as you mentioned, AC/DC, ZZ Top, Judas Priest. You have some really good cover songs. Just like Faster Pussycat, when they did Carly Simon's "You're So Vain," did you ever think of releasing one of those songs, doing your version of it?
Yeah, we have released a couple.
Okay.
We did I don't know how obscure, but I guess it's Tom Petty has so many hit songs, but we did our own version of one of his old songs called Honeybee, and we actually did a video for it too. So yeah, so you'll have to check that one out if you haven't. It's pretty cool. But we have our own version of Thin Lizzy's Jailbreak. We recorded that. I think that's somewhere online. We've recorded our version of Sweet Emotion, Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf. So we have recorded some covers and put them out there. So we have a great version of Holy Diver by Dio. So yeah, so a lot. We normally just do covers live to fill time. I mean, if we have to play a longer set, we'll throw in a bunch of covers. We always try and put one or two in our set anyway, just because it helps. It helps when people know a song or two, and it helps bring them back. If they're getting bored or whatever, and I like hearing a band do a good cover or something. But I mostly like the original music, so we mess around with covers. We have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's funny you say that, because in the 80s, when I was in bands, seems like in this area anyway, there was a lot of clubs that let you play more original music. And then a couple of my friends who were still in bands later on, they wanted them more play covers are like, oh, I like when people get drunk and they hear something that's familiar, and then they're buying more
Right.
beer, and then the club owners love when. So I love the fact that you're able to play a mixture of both. Put in some cover songs, the audience goes crazy. Then else they get to hear something like, this is really good. So then they're like, check out your stuff. So how has the band changed over the years then?
We just try and get better. It hasn't really drastically changed. We just try and get better at what we do. Songwriting, better on stage. Just the basic, the basic thing that I tell my guys is, as long as we're all happy and we're excited about new music, we keep going, and that's basically what we do. If we change, hopefully it's for the better, and we just get, like I said, better at writing songs and at our craft, on and off stage. So
do you ever feel pressure, maybe not even from the fans, to stay more the same? I'll tell you what I mean. It's like a lot of times musicians will say, oh, especially bands that are signed, they'll say like they basically want the same songs but different names or different album titles. Do you ever feel pressure from the fans, like, oh, they're all Bad Marriage doesn't sound like they used to, I want them to stay exactly the same? Even though I think that's why I always make this this analogy. Like, you'll never see a band, for the most part, like going from the Beatles, like from Love Me Do all the way to Sgt. Pepper's. It seems like either the record label won't let them change that drastically, they'll drop them, or the fans will say, yeah, I don't know about that.
No, we don't really feel pressure. I mean,
that's good.
We have a lot of material that's still unreleased, and it's from all different spectrums, from rock to metal, and we just love it, and we just kind of do what we want. So we're just happy that that we get to do what we can do, and our fans that we have are pretty badass. So they've been really cool with everything we've put out so far. So
yeah, when you mentioned you do, I want to get back to this for a minute. You mentioned Dio, they do covers on. With that band, Last in Line, what exactly is that? I know it's is that members of the Dio band that are on tour? Yeah. Like,
very, very cool. That was a cool show. We played with them once, but they were very cool. And again, just sharing the stage with legendary, musicians is really cool. And we do that a lot. And we like to think we can hang with all those guys. And we love it.
Well, I think you already proved that you can. I mean, all these legends that you played with, going on tour, Tesla, Buck Cherry, all the other ones. I think you can hang. You could definitely hang. Well, touring and selling merchandise is definitely the best way to make money now, because you're not going to make it from streaming, obviously.
Yeah.
So some of the bands I've spoken with said that it's so difficult for an independent band it's extremely expensive to tour because of the gas, because of the hotel rooms. Yeah. So how do you work around that?
Again, it's not easy. So you actually answered the question, because it's hotels, gas, everything. It's not easy, and you just you budget your local shows with that's where kind of our bread and butter, where we make money, and you budget it correctly and allocate it to new merchandise, and you hope that you sell merchandise to pay for your trip. Like, you do a couple $100 in merch. It's a decent night that goes in the gas tank. You might be able to get a hotel room. You do more than a couple $100, you're good. You have some padding. So we're a well-oiled machine now, so we kind of know what we can and what we can't do, and we're pretty confident that we can make things happen on the road as these touring opportunities come up. So we got a pretty good idea of how to keep going.
Yep. I think one of the best books I've ever read on touring has to be Henry Rollins' Get in the Van. I'm not sure if you ever heard of that.
No, I haven't. That'd be cool though.
It's his days in Black Flag when he first he was offered the job, and he was manager at an ice cream shop, and he said, I'm never going to get this chance again. But basically, they went in the van, and there are all the horror stories. But he said that's what made him who he is today. Mm-hmm. All that suffering and going through everything, and it was just so it's definitely, I think that we mentioned before, instead of, going on stage on American Idol and then going on a world tour after that, what you're doing builds character and makes you a better songwriter / musician, gives you more life experiences that you can write about. So, yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. It's not for everyone. Touring is not, a lot of bands dissolve or implode after the first tour, because you get to really see everybody's true colors when you're on the road and you're in a tight space for, months or weeks or whatever, because, it's not an easy thing to do. So if you can figure out everyone's personalities and whatever, and deal with them and continue to have fun, then that's how you can be successful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the name of your band is perfect, because being in a band really is like a marriage. It really
That's
is.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Sometimes
You
you're
said
gonna
it.
love them, other times you're gonna hate them, and you just have to learn how to
Yeah.
get along. So you mentioned, so the advice that you were given, and you basically just learn more by watching. So for you, giving advice to an up and coming musician, what would that be?
Well, that'd be we'd be here for a while. But I will, a few things is like I said, is staying relevant and putting out stuff that's cool and creative, and going and getting good recordings of stuff, and not rushing to put out a song if it's not, really sounding good. I think having a great sounding song or record goes a long way, number one. I think really crafting your look, I think that's still very important. I think looking like a rock band, and it doesn't have to be cliche, but just having some cool, unique look and that caters to your sound, is really cool. Taking good photos, having a good music video for your single. And again, it all costs money though, and it's not easy to do, but I think, you put all your ducks in a row like that, and you're on the right path. But yeah, I'd say good recordings is important, and staying relevant. How can you keep putting out content,
Yeah.
and I don't have the answer. We're learning as we go as well.
So are you always continuing writing songs?
Oh
do
yeah, yeah. We have tons and tons of stuff. So we're not lacking in that department. What we run into is time, because being on the road, you can't, focus time on recording and mixing. So we have tons of stuff that we're ready to get down and get out there to the public, but we just need time to get it done.
Well, one thing I love about you and the rest of the band is that you guys have a great relationship with your fans. I love the fact how you interact with them. So tell my viewers, what is the Bad Marriage Society? I love this.
Yeah, that's and I think I missed that when you said what would your advice be, and that's, yeah, if you do start to get fans, as you start to make a name for yourself and your band, is to really embrace them, and just and listen to them, talk with them, and make them feel like family. And that's what we continue to do, and that just goes over so well. And that's how you get diehard dedicated fans. The Bad Marriage Society is a Facebook group dedicated to bad marriage fans, and it's like a family, and it's a private group, which means, if you join the group if you want to be there, which is really cool, because if it's public, anyone can just go on there and start spamming and doing whatever. So we've built, I don't know, it's almost 3,000 people now, and they're all there because they want to be there. And it's just one way of giving back, and it's kind of like a playground for bad marriage fans, and we're all actively on there. All of our members are chiming in, and we're thanking people, we're joking around, and it just goes a long way. So yeah, that's just one outlet of how to give back and stay, in a communicating way with people who dig your band and your sound.
And I think that's extremely important, because you probably, I mean, I'm sure but people don't imagine like the impact you would have, like when their favorite rock stars starts talking, like, "Hey, how's it doing? So glad you enjoyed the album." And then like, "Oh my God." And so, yeah, I love the fact that you are interacting with your fans. And did you ever get people like, "Yeah, this isn't really Mike Fitz. Okay, whoever you are."
Not really, but that'd be funny if they didn't think it was me. I'd get a kick out of that. But I like when I'll comment on a rock star or someone who's somewhat famous, and they get right back to me. It makes me happy, You know what I mean? So it's like, and then it makes me think, oh, you know, these people are really cool. They're down to earth. So, you know, that's the way we strive to be, and we always have been.
Yep. I love it. So I know you're on tour right now, and I guess tour today's the day off, and you're playing in Canada. So let's do a little plugging for you. What's next, and where can people find you?
Well, what's next is the rest of this tour. Like I said, all the dates are on our page, badmarriagemusic.com. That everything is on there. You know, that's our hub for, you know, if you want to find our merch, our shows, and all that good stuff. Again, on Facebook, we have that private group called Bad Marriage Society. It's a really, really cool community. And everyone's super nice there. So tomorrow, we're in Montreal tomorrow. We're playing at a place called the Piranha Bar, which is supposed to be really cool. We're on tour with Enough's Enough and the Choir Boys, both very, very, very kick-ass bands, genuine people, super, super nice. We hang out every day. And that just makes the tour go a lot better when all the bands are on the same page and super professional, but also know how to kick back and relax and have a good time too on our off days. And it's been great so far. After that, you know, after we get back in early August, we have some hometown dates. Off the top of my head, I got so many dates going through my head. I'm not sure, but again, badmarriagemusic.com, all of our shows are listed. And then we hope to just put out some new stuff, obviously with our new guitar player, Tommy. We're going to put out some new music with him, hopefully a new video when we get back. So yeah, we got a lot of work to do, but we're excited about it.
Well, I definitely personally cannot wait to see you live in concert sometime soon. I mean, that's why I love living in Connecticut, because you have Boston on one side, New York on another, Rhode Island. So it's really, no matter where you guys are playing, I'm sure I could at least catch you once or twice. And I will definitely be doing that now that I know who you are and where you're playing around. I'll be looking for you, and you see me in the front row going crazy.
That'd be awesome, man. I hope to see you.
So before we leave, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that I did not mention?
I think we got everything. I mean, we're excited about our new EP. You know, if people are into vinyl, we have both of those full-length albums. You mentioned Bad Marriage, our self-titled, and then Bad Marriage 2. We have those on vinyl, which are really cool. We spent a lot of time on our custom artwork. We have a guy that draws all our stuff, and we really like that, the old school ways of, you know, really, really cool drawings and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think we got everything. Our new EP is out on CD and obviously all the streaming services, and we're psyched about that. And come out to a show, anyone that's listening, and come say hello, and you know, and we'll hang out.
I have to say before we go though, because like I said, I'm a little bit older than you, and in the 70s, I loved the albums. I loved opening up. You had the artwork, you had the liner notes, you had all the different. I missed the albums, and people said, "Oh, you know, the sound's not good." I loved the quality of it. And it's funny because back in the 70s, the albums would be cheaper, and the CDs when they came out, they'd be like $20. Now the CDs are $3-4, and the albums are $20. But I'm so glad that it's making a comeback. Like I always say, everything is cyclical, and I'm glad that albums. I don't think we'll ever get back to 8-tracks. I don't think we'll ever go back that far, but
right. I love 8-tracks. I still collect 8-tracks, but you have to. And again, there's another thing, a piece of advice, I guess, for new bands, and you got to kind of have everything. You got to have your music on all the digital streaming platforms, right? Spotify, all that stuff, YouTube. You got to be putting stuff out there, but you also got to have formats that people like a hard copy CD. Some people really still like CDs. We sell a ton of them at our shows. We're selling vinyl almost every night, and people love when we sign it. So, you know, if you can, again, it's expensive. You got, you know, to have all this stuff and make it, and you got to be sitting on it for a while. But for a touring band, if you're just starting to tour, the more cool stuff you have at your merch table, the more that you're going to sell and be able to take that money and put back into the band.
Very, very cool. All great. Thanks so much for being on the show. I enjoyed it very much. I love the band. Like I said, I listened to the EP 5 or 6 times. I listened to Bad Marriage 1 and 2 several times. I'm definitely going to be joining the Bad Marriage Society as soon as I get off this. I'll be interacting with you on Facebook myself. Mike, love to have you back on the show whenever you want to. We'll talk about whatever's next. And thank you very much for being on the Claw's Corner.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
You too.
That wraps up the latest episode of the Claws Corner. A huge thanks goes out to guitarist, mixing engineer, mastering engineer, and songwriter Mike Fitz for taking time out of his extremely busy schedule to be a guest on my show. Have good luck on the tour. A special thanks also goes out to editor extraordinaire John Bristol of Elmwood Productions for always doing a superb job editing this show each and every week and making it available to all. Thank you very much, John. I am also extremely grateful to Rob Bull and Joseph Timothy Quirk for all they do to make this show available on several Connecticut radio stations, as well as Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Thank you both very much. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.